Well, hello, my name is Jeanette Zoney, and I'm the lecturer for the Fort Bragg Grange. I'd like to thank the UEMOS for inviting both Whitesboro and Fort Bragg Grange here and having the Kelly House hosting us. So with that, I'd like to begin by letting you know that the California State Grange started in 1860. Well, the National Grange started in 1865. The California State Grange started in 1873. The California State Grange has a rich history that goes from the suffrage movement that brought women the right to vote in 1911, which was 8 to 9 years before the nation had the right to vote. The Grange system brought rural electricity, rural water, the rural mail system. All of those were part of it. The Grange has had a very rich history in programs, from the literary program, the Chautauqua program, the state fairs, county fairs, 4-H club. They have built university extensions in Pennsylvania, for the Future Farmers of America, all of the agricultural and home economic programs that went from high schools to our colleges were all brought to you by the Grange, which is still actively doing things like that. So with that, I would like to introduce to you the Grange is bigger on the coast. We have, we're very lucky to have them, and Randy Marler and Marie Koskela are the two masters for the Fort Bragg. And
Almighty Father, maker of heaven and earth, and giver of all good, we return our heartfelt thanks that we are permitted again to meet each other here for work in this glorious cause. Endow us with prudence and wisdom in our counsel as a body, that our work may be good and acceptable in thy sight, and that our labors may be blessed with the liberal harvest. And when we are called to lay down our implements on earth, may we enter the paradise not made with hands, eternal in the heavens, and receive that welcome plaudit, well done, good and faithful servant. We beseech thee to bless the officers and members of this Grange, and all the connected with the order, with the highest to the lowest degree, and grant them prosperity. We ask this in thy holy name. Amen.
Amen. Hi, I'm Marie Koskela, master of the Whitesboro Grange, and it's an honor to be there. I have served quite a few times, and we organized in 1950, June of 1950, and how we started was that a bunch of the farmers met and were having a meeting, and the master of the Fort Bragg Grange asked the Whitesboro, Allegan people, they would like to have a Grange, and therefore they said yes, they would. So about 40 of them got together with the Fort Bragg master at that time in 1950 and organized a Grange, and Brother Shellmeyer was the state master at that time. He came over and obligated all the members. And before that, they met in the Little River State Park Recreation Hall to have their meetings. They also met in private homes. And Fitz Johnson, who was a member of our Grange, said, well, why don't you give me a bid on this Navarro Ridge Schoolhouse? And he says, I think I can make a deal with you. So we asked him how much they wanted, and they said $800. So he in turn says, okay. He says, you dig up the money and you can have it for $800. So that's how we got our little Whitesboro Grange on the Navarro Ridge Road. And it was really nice, and then they paid him back in so much each month, and it worked out wonderful. And I was trying to think, our first master was Howard Anderson, and then we had Ben Rutherford, which is Verna Hayter's father, and Bill Walsh, and Paul Wildermuth, and then Bob Canclini, and we have a few others in between. Emma Johnson was secretary for 40 years at one time, and she also was master for 3 years at that time. And to raise funds to pay our Grange Hall off, we had square dancing, we had card parties, we had dinners, and we had other social obligations in that. And we have one charter member still with us, and that's Harry Pritchard. He lives in Fortuna, California, and he's been there for the whole 55 years that we've been there. Verna Hayter had been a charter member at that time, but she dropped off and had other communications in life that broke her span, but we finally got her back into Grange, so we're really happy to have her back with us. Carol Carpenter was a member of the Junior Grange, and that was Emma Johnson's daughter, and she was a junior Grange member for about 3 years, and at the age of 14 she became a regular Grange member, and she is now a 50-year member of our Grange. We have 3 50-year members there. I'm one, and I can't remember who the others
Carol
are.
and Harry.
Harry Pritchard is one, and who's the other?
Carol Carpenter.
Carol Carpenter, okay. See, my mind slips, and it's my age, folks, it can't be helped, so. Today we have 29 members in our Grange, and of the 29 we have 11 active ones, and you can see part of them here today. And the women have an organization, which I'll let one of my members talk about that a little later. And we have in the future plans a dinner coming up. So now I was given to a piece of paper that says 100C Whitesboro Grange being installed way back, and I can't see the year, but Bill Walsh, which was our 3rd master or 4th master, was obligated at that time, and they have the list of a bunch of people, and people can look at this a little later then. Now I'll shut up and let the next master take over, which is Randy from Fort Bragg Grange.
I'll have a few words.
Okay, Randy.
I'm the master of the Fort Bragg Grange. I'd like to thank the Kelly House for having us here today, and Dee Lemos for everything you've done. And start off with, this is our secretary, Dorothy Mitchell. Overseer is Charlie Holmes, he isn't here. Our lecturer is Jeanette Doning, she's right there. Our steward is Alan Simon. Our assistant steward is Bob Strecker. Our lady assistant steward is Carmen Beck, she's sitting right there. Our chaplain is Carol Brown, she's absent. Our treasurer is Jen Strecker, she's absent. Our gatekeeper is Alan Waters, he's absent. Series is Eleanor Campbell. I think she got a little sick or something, she's absent. Flora is Marilla Freitas. Musician is Jen Kessner, which you'll stand up and clap for her when she's done. She's great, she does a great job. Executive committee is Robert Cockwell and Barry McLaughlin, Henry Johnson, and our GWA is Julie Angelo, she's sitting right there. And this is C. Cockwell, she's pro tem today for the lecture. And this, excuse me.
Caroline Wolke.
Yes, and this is Caroline Wolke right here.
Our Flora.
She's our Flora. And our Grange was started in 1938, and our first master was Maxine Matla. When I was a young man, we went to the Matla Ranch on Pudding Creek, and they had their meetings in the chicken house. and that was for the fairs, I think the Boonville and the Ukiah Fair. That's where we met there as a young boy. Then I went through school, I graduated, come back, and decided to go back into the Grange. And I became master. This is my 2nd year. Robert Cockwell was a master for 10 years prior. And so that's, I'll let the ladies do the rest. They know more than I do, so thank you. Dorothy, would you like to say something? Go ahead. Just go right down the list.
Okay, I was actually first a member of the Grange in Comchi. I was a member of the Junior Grange and served as their secretary, and then became a member of their Senior Grange a few years later. Comchi Grange had a slow demise, but we're trying to pull together people who used to be there and come to Fort Bragg or Whitesboro. I thank you for having us here. I really appreciate the chance for a forum where we can speak about these memories and the things that we feel are really crucial to helping our communities pull into the future. Caroline?
Randy, even before they met at Maxine's Chicken House, they met at the Pudding Creek Hall over in Pudding Creek.
On John Hyman Road, at the old
Yes.
dance hall?
Yeah, the old dance hall.
Yeah, that's what I thought about it.
And they were there. They were called to order by a gentleman, and about 40 members of people came in, and he asked them, well, would you like to join the Grange? And of these 40 members, 19 of them showed up, and where was it? In the first meeting was, no. So they met over at the Pudding Creek Hall until, I guess it was winter arrived. Anyhow, it was too cold, so they moved into what we now know as the Footladders building, and they met there until Excuse me. December 1941, when the superintendent of schools asked if they would be interested in buying the Inglenook School, which was then called the Ocean View School, which they naturally said yes. It was a two-room building with no inside plumbing and no electricity. So that's where they moved to in those days. Were you there in those days?
Not right at the start, no. I started out, I think I joined in the 80s, or 70s, around 72, and right away they put me as a steward, and then I went over to the assistant lady steward after Carmen gave it up for a while, and then I was master. Sounds funny to say master when you're a lady, but anyhow, for a couple of years, and then I think I've had practically every office. Then I went to overseer, and let's see, series, and lecturer, and practically everything. Only thing I wasn't into was the executive board or the well, anyhow, whatever it was, I wasn't. But it seems like I've been in every chair practically, you know, since then. And then I graduated to the GWA, which means Grange Women's Activities, and I'm in there. I don't know how many years now, but I enjoy it, and I'm about one of the oldest members going there now, and I got my 90th pin for the Grange for my birthday last year, so I'm heading for 91 pretty quick. And this house reminds me of when my grandmother was housekeeper here for Mrs. McCollum, and I knew her sister Elizabeth and her son Don, and we had a little house there where I learned to be a little seamstress. Mrs. McCollum was nice, and it brings back memories when I came back in here, because after my mother died, she was drowned down here at Mendocino Headlands, and I've enjoyed my Grange, and as long as I can keep going, I'm there.
Hi, I'm Carmen Beck, and anyway, I didn't mean to, I started out in 1941 or 42, the first time I joined the Fort Brent Grange. And then I went to San Francisco and I came back and I joined again, and then I dropped out, and this is my third time around. And I've been about 40 years now, and I've been lady assistant and lecturer, and I ran the Grange breakfast for years. For about 10 years, we had the biggest count, 716 over Labor Day. And I left Carol Ann in charge, and I took off. That was the guy.
716 of them.
What
year
was that? I don't know.
It's the one that has the star on it and the pictures and the note of who worked that day.
Yeah, well, the potato man was a freak first time around, and he said he never would come back. So my mother and sister both were secretaries for years, and we worked on the fairs, and anyway, it was a lot of fun. Enjoy
Hi,
it.
my name is C. Cockwell, and I was the lecturer for 10 years. Then I passed it on to Jeanette, who's doing a wonderful job. And each lecturer has a different take on their job, what they're supposed to be doing. And basically it falls into what their interest is. Mine has always been the health field. So with me, it was an educational program, health issues, stuff like that. And I'm so glad that Jeanette's doing hers on the history of the Grange and education about it, because this community really needs to hear what the Grange is all about, and not only what they do now, what they've done in the past, and hopefully what will happen in the future. My husband was the president for 10 years. Unfortunately, he can't be here today. His grandfather was a member. His uncle was a member. I'm originally a Floridian. So we moved back here in 1979 and joined the Grange in the early 80s. And when I heard of his history with the Grange and all the people that he knew as far as Grange and the business, and I just thought it was terrific. What else? I have a lot of pictures of the things that we do at the Grange, different programs that we have, such as usually in February we have the Breakfast Workers Thank You Dinner, and this is a catered dinner to thank everyone that's worked the Grange breakfast for the past year, and they only have to work it for an hour. Some people feel very awkward in showing up, but as long as they want to volunteer their time, we want to thank them. Then in also in February we have the Valentine's Day social. We have a contest as to who can make the best Valentine, dress up like a Valentine, have a Valentine poem, whatever turns their key. Then March, April. Then in May we have the Mother's Day breakfast, which the men cater. They get up at the Grange like 7 o'clock in the morning. They fix the whole meal. Then the ladies show up at 9 and they treat us like queens. And usually it's always a fantastic meal. Then in June. Usually we had it in July or August. I think this year we're going to have it in September. Once a year we put on a large Grange barbecue, and it's always been fantastic. Now for me, besides having a regular barbecue, it's been my way to introduce our exchange students to their new Grange family, and they get to learn all about the Grange and America, but this is their extended family, which to me is very important. Then we have in October is when people go to the State Grange Convention and get to learn and vote on the propositions and have a say about their community, their state. Then we have our large Halloween contest and party, and that is so much fun. December we have our Christmas party and dinner and get to see Santa Claus. And I thank you very much for your time. Hope you would like to come out and join us sometime. This is Jan.
I'm Jan Kessner, and I'm the musician in the Fort Bragg Grange. And I joined in what, 99?
I think so.
Something like that. And you know, I didn't know what else I could do, and I'm not very fast on my feet. I couldn't be a waitress. I didn't figure I could cook real for a big bunch of people and all that stuff. I said, you know, you don't have a musician. So that's what I did, and I play the piano there usually, but when I go to functions where there isn't a piano, well, here I am with an accordion, which I've played for many years. But anyway, is there anything else interesting I should say? I don't know. I've been doing this for as long as I've been in the Grange. Oh, when they have the breakfast, every Grange has a Sunday when they have a breakfast of the month. They'll have a time when it's their turn. And when we have ours, we have a pretty big hall, and people in the waiting room hear all this clang, clang, clang from the kitchen, which can't be helped, you know. They're washing the dishes and they're serving the plates and all, and it's clank clank. I thought, what if I played in there, broke that sound up a little bit? So now I've been doing that for the last 2 years, I guess.
At least. I'd like to add something. She plays so beautifully, and there's been times, I'm also the scholarship chairman, and I'll be sitting there, and Jan will be playing, and people that are waiting for their breakfast, and they will break into a dance. They will waltz. They will do all these different dances according to what music she's playing. And people applaud, and they're so appreciative of the music. So we want to thank you, Jan.
You're welcome.
Yes, it is a real treat to have her. She cannot see, I don't know if you've noticed or not, she's completely blind. But the things she does is outstanding. She bakes for the bake sale there at the Grange. You ask her to do anything, she'll try anything. So it's really a treat to have her there and have her playing music. And it's a treat to have all these ladies with their ages. You know, it's hard to get help. And you can ask a young man or somebody to come in there and work. I know, they'll have their chances. Excuse me. But I'd just like to say, you ask somebody to come and help, and they'll say, well, I can't do it today because I got to get on the computer, or I got to get on this, or I got to play games. Look at the average age of these ladies. Julia Angelo, 90, going on 91 years old. Carmen Becca's getting up there. They're all up there. I mean, and you ask them to come, they're there. Every month they come, they put their time in, and they appreciate it. I try to tell them thank you. Try to get them a cup of coffee if they need a Jen needs something to drink, we do it for her. But I'd just like to say thank you to them for their time and their effort that they put in our Grange. Thank you. Maria, it's your turn.
Can I break in and add one more thing about Jan? I know you're going to be editing this. 3 years ago, Jan and I went to the state convention when it was held in Ukiah. So we were there for a whole week. She took her accordion, and at every convention they always have a talent contest, and we will be having one at our Grange soon. And she said, do you think I should play in the talent contest? I said, most definitely play. So we got her signed up, she performed, did a fantastic, not just one song. They kept saying, more, more. And she played over and over again. And this woman brought the young kids to the old folks. They all talked and laughed, and people were up dancing. And it was wonderful. Now, she not only, without any practice, without any plans on really performing, she not only won State Grange Convention, but then she won Best Overall. She was invited to go to National Grange and perform at National Grange. And she was unable to, but she really wanted to go, and things just did not work out for her. But it was, what a feather in her cap. That was wonderful.
It was a lot of fun doing that. I was really surprised to win, I'll tell you. There were some good acts there.
Are you back to me again?
Yes.
Now I'd like to introduce my crew over here. Verna Hayter is treasurer, and Mary Alice Campini is our chaplain, and Bob is my overseer. So if I don't do my job, he boots me and tells me I have to do it. So right now I'll turn you over to Verna, our treasurer here.
Hi, I'm Verna Hayter. I rejoined the Grange about 10 years ago. I have been treasurer for the last 9. Marie recently appointed me as chairman of the GWA, and I'm going to try to get it up off the ground and start doing something. We've been doing a lot, but I'd like to get more of the women in the Grange involved in it. My greatest satisfaction in the Grange has been about 6 years ago, we made quilts and took them to the veterans in Yountville. We made 63 quilts and took them down. These were not bed quilts, these were like lap quilts. and there are pictures. The ladies that worked on these quilts was Marie Koskela, Mary Alice Canclini, Eddie Latham, Eva Pierce, Lorna Chance, Diana Nason, Bobby Summers, Lenny Sprock, and myself. And it was quite a pleasure to be able to take them down and present them in person to the veterans in the hospital. And some of them could talk to you, some of them wouldn't talk to you, and some of them could not speak, but you saw the appreciation in their eyes. I'd like to do it again, but several of the ladies that worked on them before are not here any longer, so I'm going to need some more help. We meet at the Grange on the first Thursday at 10 o'clock. Bring a sack lunch. We work on Grange projects such as quilts, knitting, crocheting, embroidery. We have a lunch from about 12 to 1, work some more till about 2, and then go home. We gather again on the Thursday before breakfast. Breakfast is the fourth Sunday, so it's the Thursday before that. We work on our projects from 10 to noon, have lunch, a short meeting, set up the hall for breakfast, and go home. We're usually through about 2:30. And that's all I have to say at this point.
Hi, I'm Mary Alice Canclini, and I'm unable to make her wonderful sewing classes, but I've been a member for approximately 10 years. My contribution to our breakfast day is making cookies to sell, and so that's my part.
Besides the physical labor we all do.
Yeah, the physical labor, right, that's fun. It's fun to serve breakfast and meet everybody from the community. But I really enjoy the Grange. It's a wonderful fellowship with everybody.
I'm Bob Canclini. I'm a member along with Mary Alice. We joined about 10 years ago, and we do it together. Enjoy what I do for the Grange. To me, trying to keep the tradition, one of the things is agriculture. And both of us grow things at home. We sell at the farmer's market and other places. We provide for family. So agriculture is a strong part of our family. And as we travel throughout the state, we'd like to look at what's going on, especially like through the Central Valley. If you go down 99 or 5, or go into the Sacramento area, you look at the crops that are grown, and you look and see whether it's a good year or a bad year. And what we have in this state as far as agriculture, and it's great. And as a Grange, we try to preserve that. We try to do that. And one of my jobs at the Grange meetings is to report as to what is happening as far as agriculture is concerned. You know, the politics of it gets into it. Also within our Grange, we have our monthly breakfast, and that is one of our main fundraisers, along with maybe 1 or 2 dinners a year. It could be a ham dinner or a spaghetti and pot roast dinner. And so what we're doing with those funds that we have in our Grange is to help to restore the building. Over the years, these buildings need maintenance, they need upkeep. And over the last, say, 8 to 10 years, Whitesboro Grange, as small as it is, has spent maybe $30,000 in the facility. And that's, you know, the water system, the septic system, roof in the building, exterior repair, etc. And all of that has been paid through funds which we've raised through the breakfast and the dinner. So it's a pay-as-you-go. And the one thing I like about working with the Grange is the people that are working with us. I enjoy working with them because, you know, we joke a lot, we laugh a lot, and we work hard together. And it's a great team that is there. And as we do things, we don't even tell each other what to do, because before you know it, there's somebody stepping in to do the job that has to be done. And that's what I like. That's what I like about the Grange family. And then of course, we participate in the Pomona and in the State Grange. We go to State Grange Convention. and we meet others throughout the state. And that's where we learn a lot about the Grange. And so it's a great organization because Mary Alice and I do it together, and we really, really enjoy doing it. And I think others out there, if you want to have a Grange experience, look into it. It's well worthwhile.
The Grange is really for family and communities, and this is why we try to keep to our community and have things for that. We also work with the fire department in Albion, and we'll work with anybody that needs help, and all they have to do is holler. One of the Grange members will be there to help, regardless if it's 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, you holler for help. Grange member will be at your door to help you. And at this time, I would like to thank the Mendocino, the Kelly House, and Dee Lemus for having us here today, and Jeanette for getting us involved. And I thank each and every one you came. And if you have any questions or answers, feel free to ask. We have a hand down back over there wants a question.
Well, I enjoyed meeting each of you and understanding your officers and hearing about your social events, but I wonder if you could tell me something about the original founding. I understand from a discussion I had with the lady before this program began that it was begun by Andrew Jackson right after the Civil War, and I'm also curious as to what your purpose and your mission is.
Jeanette, would you like to answer? Jeanette's been digging through the history.
Just for a second, so you second here. But no, it was not Andrew Jackson. It was an Oliver Hudson Kelly, believe it or not. An Oliver Hudson.
Janet, he was appointed by Andrew Jackson.
Appointed by Andrew Jackson.
Who was president?
Who was president at the time?
Yes.
For the USDA.
But he was...
As a U.S.
The Civil War had left our country devastated. And
That's
that
right.
was why it was started.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's exactly. Let me stand over by Carolyn.
No problem.
I'm going to stand over here by Carolyn. Harmon, you're skinny. Whoa. Whoa. Because Mary Ann has been doing some history, but I've also been doing some history. So we can both do some history together for you.
I think you're ahead of me.
No, no. Sister dear. No, we'll start with Andrew Jackson appointed Oliver Hudson Kelly. And Oliver Hudson Kelly, he appointed him as a USDA officer because after the Civil War, Americans were shooting each other over the way that they spoke. And farmers particularly had it rough at the time because here they were growing food, but how did they get the food to the people, especially when you've got this piece of land and all you're trying to do is hold on to that piece of land and make things work. So as a government appointee, he went around and he realized that these farmers, collectively, although they were very independent-minded people, had a problem, and that was getting together and communicating. Now they had 7 founders, and 5 of them were Masons. And that's probably very important because George Washington and many of our United States were begun by Masons. So the program, in a lot of ways, my feeling about it is that the Constitution is beautifully written, but the Grange takes it a step further because now they're already 100 years basically further into what the Constitution stood for, so they understood what independence were and rights. When the Grange was founded, it also had Carolyn Hall. It incorporated a woman. And that's very important because as American citizens in this new country, they had a huge esteem for the Native American Indian. Native American Indians, the squaws, were the ones who picked who the chief was going to be. It wasn't the men, it was the women. So the Grange felt that it was very important that they had women in positions. Flora, Ceres, Pomona are the graces, and this comes from Greek and Roman history, the goddesses of agriculture. So everything that had to do with the Grange, in putting it together with people, it had to do with natural law, understanding how things grew, how the world worked, that gravity fell down, that all of these ancient histories were part of it, and this was something that farmers could relate to. So with that in mind, in opening it up to women, because women like to talk, that's how the Grange got started and pulling around, because they went to farmers and what would you like to do, and let's talk about it, and the sun's gonna come up in the spring, and the sun's gonna move so many degrees, and how are we gonna plant this field, and if you put this, there was nothing like that on the face of the earth at the time. And so it started here in America, those agricultural programs. That's how the Grange started, if that answered your question.
There's one more
But,
thing.
I mean, do you have like a mission statement that succinctly
The mission statement.
tells what you do, what you stand for?
The mission statement changes, just like our officers, C kind of touched on that a little bit earlier. We have a chaplain and we have a lecturer, and neither one of them is given a book that says, this is how you're going to do it. Because spirituality comes in many different forms from people, and it's always an education thing. The lectures program is an education thing. So what each person brings to that Grange Hall, we have a subordinate Grange. These are two subordinate Grange that fall under the Pomona, which is the county Grange that goes to the state. Every lecturer, every chaplain, and every master has a mission. In general, the whole idea would be to promote agriculture, to promote family, to promote a productive lifestyle, to be able to sustain as a community, and then of course allegiance to your country. That's very important to Grangers. That's what our mission would be. We are the first sustainable organization. We are linked up to 11-story building, a block and a half from the White House. We've always been linked up. Unfortunately, as these big farms and international corporations come in, the Grange gets smaller and smaller. But in many ways, they were the heart of any kind of rural community. Co-ops started with the Grange. That's how you ended up having co-ops, where you got bags of grain that came in a store, and then people could come and buy from it. A lot of liberals, if you will, try to recreate the wheel, but this wheel's being created, and in many ways it's been smashed, and that's why at this point we feel like it's only fair to a community to educate people as to what you've already got the wheel. It's already in place, and it works very, very well. But I mean, the railroad system that came in, we've been fighting corporations. Grange has been fighting corporations forever. Grange has been fighting government forever.
And what, you fought the railroad?
Yes, because what the railroad would try to do is say that how much grain or produce that we had, they wanted to charge the farmer to move it, and then they wanted to profit off of both ends. All a farmer really wants to do, and I should say this, Patrons of Husbandry is the official name. And that's very important to know, because as patrons of husbandry, that in a Granger's heart, we're earthlings. All animals are earthlings. Everything of this earth we are of, by, and part of. And we, having a mind and a body, it's our job to take care of them. It's our job to take care of them and to love our planet, to love our crops, to love our animals, to nurture them, to make sure they're healthy. This is why the 4-H Club and the Future Farmers of America came up, because it was important to pass on to your children that you just don't feed an animal and slaughter it. This was something that you loved, that you prized, that you wanted to share with everybody. You know, we have a great love for the planet, a great love for life and esteem, purity of water, purity of soil. All of this was something that was important. And loving your brother. These are my brothers and sisters. We love them. That's why our breakfasts are $5. As prices go up and go up, our breakfasts are still $5, and we put it out to the community to see about, I mean, prices are going up. What the Grange would like to do today as far as the mission goes, we've got Proposition 1478, that industrial hemp, that's now AB 648, and we have a lobbyist. The Grange we write resolutions. We at one time were one of the strongest political entities in the United States. But we write resolutions. They go from a subordinate to Pomona to the state. Once they get to the state, when they pass. And then that's also very interesting, because a resolution is written, and you as a member have a right to stand from the lecturer's podium or the chaplain's podium, where your soul's out on an issue, and you can talk till you're blue on the face on an issue. But then once everybody's talked out, then we pass a vote. And what that vote says, then we're done. And that's very democratic. I have never known anything more democratic in my life than that. And so this AB 648 industrial hemp bill, that's one of the things that the Grange has done. Another one is AB 1700, which is to give volunteer firefighters an 80% tax break. Because as rural people, we very much depend on rural volunteer firefighters. And who's fighting us are paid volunteer firefighters. People who are getting paid by the state are once again fighting people who live in rural areas that are dependent on things. So there's a lot of good reasons to be involved with the Grange and to get the Grange to growing again.
Have a question back there?
Yeah, what's the origin of the word Grange? What is the word?
Patrons of Husbandry.
Actually, the word Grange is English. It meant any countryside estate. Usually where farming was done.
It's a very common word in a lot of areas. You've heard of LaGrange, and ZZ Top even had a song, LaGrange. In England, the farms are called Granges. The way that our halls are set up, the master, for example, master now has a bad connotation. But to a Granger, a master meant that was a man, that was like the highest type of human being that there was, because you understood nature so well. That like running a farm was really understanding nature well. Everything on the farm had to be used. Recycling, all of this was important. Nothing was thrown out. Everything had something worthy, and so we'll respond, worthy master or worthy secretary, because this is a person of their worth is a person who esteems and uses earthly products in a way that's loving.
In Casper, we have a community center and a board of directors. How would a Grange be different from that kind of an organization in which we have all our community members meet and discuss issues about the community and how it's going to grow and how it's going to evolve?
Your Casper Community Center was a Grange, and it gave up its charter.
So how does it...
It was a shame to a lot of us, because Casper, when it comes to linking, is very, very important. It's our Granges are together because we're on the coast. It's very important for the survival. If a disaster strikes, okay, it's very important that we're all linked together. And Casper was a pivotal place between Fort Bragg and Whitesboro. And so it breaks our hearts that Casper gave up its charter. We're proud of you as a community center, and we've gone for breakfast and we eat, but your ideas are a little different. Like your breakfasts are twice as much as any of our breakfasts. We completely admire many of the things that you're doing, like the outdoor gardening and the shows that you're putting on. You certainly have a lot more youth than we do to be able to do things like that. And we've reached out to your community center a number of times, but your community center is not interested in...
What I'm asking is, how is it different from a Grange? I mean, what would be the difference other than the connection to the other...
You don't have an 11-story building, a block and a half with the White House that hires lobbyists and gets laws made. And
so there's no political
very
affiliation.
much so.
Is that what you're saying?
Maybe I can make a comment regarding that. You know, a lot of us are Grange members, and we also belong to other organizations which, you know, our time sometimes is limited. It's just like Mary Alice and I are active with another organization also. But we have people coming to us from the community, like Albion and Liver and the rest, asking us sometimes for help. We've helped the fire department vastly down there within Albion and Little River. And we've held fundraisers for funds for them at times. But the point is, with, a lot of us have limited time as far as we can participate with other organizations. We've had them come to us for use of our facility. Well, we're limited as far as sometimes our facility. We can do it for a public agency. You know, just like the county may want to have a meeting there. Or the fire department has a need maybe for a meeting within our building for facility. And like again, we're looking at making that an area for, if there's a disaster occurs, it can be a meeting area. We can be set up for helping people where they can all come to one central location. This is what we look at. Like I say, we're limited as to how much we can really work at. And that's the main thing. As far as other community activities, we may belong to those other organizations. I know Marie is very active in the Avondale Fire Department Auxiliary, and they do a lot of things for the community. So that's how we participate. A lot of us on our own individual ways. We may participate in the county government as there's something that occurs that affects us. Politically, we are non-partisan, but we can participate in things which would affect agriculture or maybe affect the community as a whole. And then we speak out. Then we come and we meet as a body and say, okay, how do we interact in meeting that situation? So we as a body then decide this is how we will do it. The state Grange, they have their resolutions, and therefore they carry it on to the state legislature and the state senate, and therefore they ask them, say, this is our concern. How do you feel as a state government in helping us, our concern, and helping the people? And just like agriculture is a big thing, as far as I'm concerned, as far as Mary Alice is concerned. Maybe this might help some of the answers to your question.
Another thing is, we speak about community, and the Grange is all about community, but it's also about individuals. We provide a voice for individuals to reach out, to create legislation, to get their opinions heard. But we also reach out to a larger community. Heifer International is one of the things we help to support. Heifer provides animals to disadvantaged people in other countries. Instead of giving money, Heifer sends people to train them how to care for the animals they might receive. When they receive the animals, they have to pass the gift on. The first animals born go to someone else in the village. You can help to support this by donating money to Heifer and seeing that these people get trained to go help these villages, because this world is one whole community. We are individuals, we have individual voices, but we're part of a greater community too.
Could I add something to that, please? The Grange is a fraternal organization. We have officers, we have ritual work, which a Casper community doesn't have. And I think that's the difference is we have, you know, the master sits up and she conducts a meeting and she has her overseers and she has a lady assistant steward that conducts the opening of the Grange and closing of the Grange. And it's not a secret work, but there is a secret password to be given, sign, and salutation. Well, community centers don't have that, where the fraternity orders do. And I think that's the difference between your community and our Grange, is that little bit different there. And then we have a charter that goes with it. That tells when you're organized and assigned by the master of the Grange and how many members in that. And does that answer your question,
Yes.
Sam?
Yeah,
Okay.
I just have one more to attach to that. When a Grange is established, are then like community boundaries defined as to what makes up the Whitesboro Grange and the Fort Bragg Grange?
They can belong to Fort Bragg, they can belong to Boonville and still belong to Whitesboro Grange, or we can join other Grange, affiliated with other Grange at the same time and pay a little dues for that. But there's no boundaries that I know of at all. If I want to join a Grange in Willits, I can join over there as a
But
affiliate.
what I mean about boundaries is, you know, our Grange encompasses from the north side of this community to the south. It doesn't do that at all.
I live on 409 at Casper, and I belong to Whitesboro Grange.
We also have members, our Fort Bragg Grange, I'm sorry to interrupt,
Yeah.
has members in Nevada,
Yeah.
and Southern California, and Oregon.
But your place of residence does not designate which Grange you have to belong to.
Or if you want to belong to many Granges.
Yeah, just up to the individual.
Different Granges have different strokes for different folks. They don't work all on the very same thing. Or Anderson Valley Grange, for example, is the first solar power Grange, and that's becoming a movement within the whole state Grange system. So there's a lot of Granges. From the ones I'm familiar with are Santa Cruz Grange all the way up to Del Norte Grange are all starting to put solar power. That's supposed to be one of the things coming up in the state that we talk about. So there's different movements that go on, different generational things. Or when you go to the California State Grange and you meet people from all over the state, it's great networking. It's wonderful. I have, in a lot of ways, a lot more friends in the state than I have here, because all of these ideas are sparking off, and let's get this, and networking, and it's very important. It's a great opportunity, and Casper doesn't really have that kind of network or extension, or and then as an individual, and it's so great as a woman. I love that quote by Susan B. Anthony. Back then, I could tell a Grange woman as far as I could see her because of the air of her feeling herself as good as a man.
And that is something I wanted to bring up. A master in the Grange can be a woman. You know, it doesn't matter.
Well, women aren't withheld from any office.
No, but I mean, in many organizations, or in many things that you do at one time, a woman couldn't participate. That was never so in the Grange. You could be the master, you could be the whatever.
Yes, I was master.
Woman could be a master in any office in the Grange, but a man cannot be a lady assistant steward, and he cannot be a grace.
And he can't be one of the Graces.
He cannot be a grace. So there's 4 offices that a man can't have, but a woman can be everything. So that's one power we have over the men.
But you can't take my job. Yeah, you can't take my job either.
Your dress wouldn't fit me.
Jeanette, the lady has a question back there.
My question is, when the Grange was formed, there were many, many small farms, maybe 40 acres, and some of them given because of the wars. And there's a real need for collectivization, for power to associate all these different diverse farms, for collecting, for selling, and for buying materials and all that. Well, now, farming, to be economic, has to be on a huge basis. You know, combines that cost $500,000, and there aren't very many of those around here, or even left in the world, in the U.S. So, how is the Grange addressing this from an agricultural standpoint when your whole audience has shrunk in terms of numbers? I mean, are you helping people become farmers for, say, the farmers markets, so they have organic foods, or how are you translating that to today, the 21st century?
Well, once again, the members that come in, it's almost like if the Grange was an ocean, and as a member that comes in, you've got a boat and where you want to put it. Back just before Jimmy Carter came in, the Grange went through a lot of big changes, because that's when these big corporate farms started. That's when the planning for the big corporate farms started coming up. And like a lot of other organizations, these guys aren't dumb. They joined the Grange, and they got positions, and the small farms have been losing out. Before the little farmers looked at each other like what was going on, that in a lot of ways was the beginning of the end of the Grange. I believe, from the research that I've done, Granges exist where government and corporations have no fear that they've got complete control over it. The Grange started in 1873 in the state of California. Fort Bragg Grange was the first Grange on the coast. That formed 100 years later because the forest industries here, the redwood manufacturing, they weren't going to allow a Grange. You weren't allowed to have a union when the forest industry was working. It was a company town, and you did what the company said. And if you didn't like what the company said, you didn't live here. And so it wasn't until really the beginning of the end of the lumber industry was in the 1930s, because the donkey engine was moving out, and new machinery's never actually been better. It moved differently and what have you, but it didn't take down the trees the way that it used to, and of course the trees weren't what they used to. So that's why a Grange was allowed to be formed. But then our Grange is 6 miles out of the city of Fort Bragg. Whitesboro Grange is way out in the rural area. So the city of Fort Bragg isn't worried about what the Grange does. That's why Casper's in a good community for that. They don't really have any kind of city that's worried about them, or they're not writing resolutions for any kind of power. So that's, in the big picture of the state, what's gone on is like, we're seeing a movement now, as far as like progressives and small farms, of insurance agents that are coming in. Because, to me, that's almost like a sign of like, well, that's what's going on with insurance agencies. Because now our state master is an insurance agent. And I'm watching some of these big farms that are getting eaten up, they're moving on the side. So it's very telling about, I mean, we are what we eat. Food's a very important part, and if anything's sickly, they'll go back.
I was going to tell you that Willett's community, I don't know if their Grange is the one that sponsored it or not, but the new move is to eat or use the products that are produced within 100 miles of your home. And if that were to catch on, you would buy to Willett's if those are the things they had, but mainly you would concentrate on the things that are grown in your area to use as the foods you really make the best of your use for. So that's one of the grassroots movements that they're trying to get started again. So the small farmer does have some power against the large farmers.
And that's Willis Grange, Anderson Valley Grange, Potter Valley Grange, Fort Bragg Grange are the only Granges in this county that are interested in doing that.
May I say something? I want to explain what the Grange ladies do, women's activities. We have charge of the money. We're the money-making part of the Grange. And the breakfast, and all that money is turned over to us. And we have our own secretary and treasurer. And every breakfast, once a month, we have what we call a bazaar table. And it's up to me to see that that table has things on it, and it's getting kind of hard. So our younger generation doesn't know how to knit, they don't know how to crochet. So one asked me how you learned to embroidery, and I said, I don't know, I learned it when I was a kid watching somebody else do it. And we have beautiful things that the members do bring. The baby stuff always goes good, and I have a granddaughter that provides a lot of the baby things now, being as I can't do everything. And I keep asking the members, if anybody knows how to do something, make something, bake something, do it and bring it, because we need the money. And about, I don't know how often, but we hand over a big check, I do, to our master for about $5,000, and that's to run the Grange. We need a lot of repairs on our Grange, and we're working on that because we are the money makers, the women are.
Can I say one thing in regards to your question? You know, the demographics of the area have changed from what it was many years ago. We have a lot of retired people coming in, and they like animals, and they may like growing things for their own use, etc. Or you may have the younger people who are working full-time to make a living, etc. But they still living in an area where they can grow a few things and they can raise animals for their own use and whatever. So we asked them, said, look, if you do that, come and look at the Grange, look at maybe join us as sort of being a social aspect of that. Maybe you can forget one night to watch the TV or sitting down and being on the net. So give up some of that and participate in what's occurring. And maybe we can draw some of those people in to the Grange to keep our membership going. This is what we have to do. There are those people out there, but to make contact with them is the big factor. This is what we look at.
in our particular Grange, because we don't have a lot of agricultural things in the community, it's increasing from where it had been 10 years ago. But 10 years ago, the Grange was strictly a social community reach out center to help people. Every penny that comes into our Grange from the breakfast, from the different programs we put on, stays in this community. We support the food bank, we support, help me folks, how many different organizations that are in this town, like 12 different organizations?
Senior Center.
Senior Center. When they, several years ago, the daycare center desperately needed some funds, so we put on a big spaghetti dinner for the community and presented the Senior Center daycare program a large check to help support them. If someone comes to us and says they need help, just like with Whitesboro, we're right there. We want to help them in any way we can. I started a program, all these different places have the food label donation sites. So I went online and I checked for the town of Fort Bragg what grades that helps with. And they only serve the elementary school. So at our Grange, at the Fort Bragg Grange, every time you come in, save up all your labels that have the little educational sign on it, Campbell's product of some sort, bring those in, give them to someone there, then I go through them, and then the Grange is set up with Campbell's, and we support our local high school for whatever needs they may have. We support our kids through scholarship programs. If there's a catastrophe in the nation, such as she was talking about the Heifer Fund.
Katrina and Rita,
Katrina.
which we dedicated quite a bit to that.
We raised a lot of money. We worked with the Heifer Fund, sent animals over. So the Grange is there to help people. Besides helping ourselves, we want to help our community, we want to help our nation, and hey, come and join us and join the party.
What she was talking about, they're sending animals over where? Over to the tsunami, when they had the tsunami, and people lost everything they had. And so we sent monies so that they could have.
That was Thailand in
There was a man that had been interviewed, and it was on television, and they asked him, the tsunami had hit, he was devastated, he lost his home, he lost his animals, he lost everything. And he was interviewed, and he said, if I lost my wife, if I lost my family, that would hurt me so much. But I could go on. I have lost my animals. My animals help me, help my family. We have nothing anymore. And one of our members heard that, got in touch with the Heifer Fund, and we were on a roll. So we help in all different aspects in our community, in our state, in our nation, in our world. We're all there to help each other.
The gentleman has a question in the back.
When do we hear the state champion voice of music for us?
In just a second. I would just like to say one more thing before we close. I'd like to thank our lecturer for all the homework that she's done and present this program today. And I really thank you a lot. You did a great job, and thanks for doing your homework.
We haven't heard from Jan, though. She's done.
We're going to have Jen, we'd like to hear from you now with the music.
Great job, Jeanette.
Yeah.
Page 173.
You all know page 173, right?
It's a good thing to be a Granger.
That's right. My favorite song.
It's a good thing to be a Granger. It's a good thing we know. It's a good thing to be a Granger wherever you may go. It's a good thing to
Say, what does she like now, Jan?
Well, I'll tell you what I like, well, how about, this is one. You know, everybody likes to blow their own horn. When they do something good, they want to tell you about it, and it's what we've been doing here. So this is called, it really is, this piece is called the Blow Your Own Horn Polka. It's Polish, and the reason it was Blow Your Own Horn because it was originally done on a saxophone. But, anyway.
Do the train one that you did at the hall.
Can I just say something real quick? After breakfast, I'm sitting next to her at my 50-50 raffle table for the scholarship fund. And there's people everywhere. We always have lots of guests ready to eat. And
What would you, 400, an average of 400 a month?
Yes.
Yeah. Plus.
And this is, by the way, on the first Sunday of the month.
Yes.
First Sunday of the month, that's right.
You're all welcome to come and join us and put your gloves on. We have aprons for you, and if you'd like to come and be our guest for the day and see how we do it, you're more than welcome.
And people are there, and I say, do you have a request? And they'll shout out something. She knows every single song.
Yeah, play that
I know a
one,
lot of
Jeff.
them. You don't want the whole train, do you?
No, well, just I want you to make the noise of the train and everything.
Okay, there's pieces that I do that do this train thing. So here we are.
Then I think they want donuts.
Here today, and please join us for coffee, tea, and cookies in the kitchen. And